The 353. Today we're talking about some standouts in the Blackhawks matchup yesterday versus Minnesota. We obviously saw them come away with a win. Minnesota didn't have many guys playing. Obviously, Brock Faber wasn't playing. Kirill Kaprizov wasn't playing. They had some other heavyweights playing, more so in their middle six and their bottom six in terms of the guys that were playing. But other than that, they didn't have too many key guys playing in this game. And Chicago, obviously, a lot of guys playing, and they've cut down their training camp roster pretty quickly and have been able to narrow it down pretty quickly. So that has allowed the full-time roster to, we've seen more of the full-time roster a little bit faster over the course of time. So yesterday, biggest standout in the game was Frank Nazar. He got his hat trick, 4 shots on goal. He was just buzzing all game long, two of which came earlier on in the game, and then that last one obviously was an empty netter, but he was just fantastic. He was fun to watch using his speed. He had a really highlight reel goal. I believe it was midway through the second. It could be mistaken on that, but he had a highlight reel goal where he went end to end in terms of the rush and controlling the speed there and the tempo. And he just looked dominant offensively, which was really good to see and really exciting to see out of his game. We hope that, and I'm a little bit biased, obviously, but just watching him, you want him to take that next step. You want him to accelerate his development. And so far in the preseason, there's been glimpses of him taking that next step, which is really promising to see. How many points that he gets this year, I don't know to be exact, but I thought he was just fantastic all game long. And then you talk about other sort of X factors. The Connor Bedard and Ryan Donato duo looked awesome once again. And I actually really liked Andre Burakovsky on that top line too. He seems to complement those two guys really nicely. I don't envision Burakovsky being a top end scorer. I can predict him to get around 40 or maybe even 50 points, somewhere around there, as a more of a top nine complementary top six guy in this team. But he showed promise, he showed skill, he showed possession driving ability. He was noticeable around the net. He was noticeable control and play on the outside on the perimeter. And sometimes you need those players, especially when they're wingers, to be able to control the walls a little bit more effectively. Oftentimes perimeter play gets looked at as bad, which I don't necessarily think is true. I think perimeter play can be good to an extent because you need guys to be able to control those possessions and get pucks low to high. And Burakovsky is one of those guys. He can fill that void. Like he can make plays low to high. He's very active offensively. He can control the boards. He can control the walls, control plays low to high, and manages the tempo there. So he's effective. I don't know how offensively effective he's going to be, but he showed that flair and that flash, and I think you need that out of those guys consistently too. Other than that, Teuvo Teravainen noticeable, Tyler Bertuzzi noticeable, good guys. You want to see elevating their games a little bit more. Wyatt Kaiser looked really noticeable in transitioning offensively, which is really promising to see. Again, I'm really curious to see how this situation plays out with their left side. If Matt Grzelcyk ends up getting signed to a contract or not. I think he's had a good preseason so far. I think he deserves at least a 1 or 2 year deal, and he also can play the right side. So you're looking at that as more of a void he can fill because he's a veteran defenseman. There's a lot of young defensemen on this lineup. So I think the biggest thing when it comes to having a lot of young defensemen, you need some veterans in that mix. And Connor Murphy's obviously going to be relied upon a lot there, but I don't think having at least 1 or 2 more is a bad thing. I know they're trying to develop the young guys and trying to accelerate the growth of the young guys, but to me, Matt Grzelcyk screams a guy that can provide some offense, some puck movement, and at the same time, he can be a veteran leader on this team. So he's a guy. I think the top pair is pretty much set for the season. When you look at Alex Vlasic and then Sam Rizzo, I think those two guys are pretty much gimmies at and on those pairings. And then from there, the pairings can interchange. I think Vlasic and Rinzel's a lock because Rinzel has just proved himself to be a guy you can rely upon in your top four pretty easily and pretty quickly. Doesn't look like a guy that's going to need time in Rockford at all. And he's been productive too. So in the preseason, especially, he looks even better than he was in his stint last year. So very promising to see. A lot of interesting components to this team and this group. I think they could have one of the best shutdown trios in the game this season with Nick Foligno, Jason Dixon, and Ilya Mikheyev. I don't think that's out of the question. I think that's a line that can shut teams down, such as your third line and your key line. Those guys can be reliable there. And I think if you have that chemistry, kind of like what Bedard and Donato had, like, and from a previous stint, what Bedard and Philip Kurashev had for the whole year in his rookie season, where it's like you can have those trio together, have that as a set line, and you can rely upon them in almost any situation defensively to be able to kill plays, shut guys down. You can rely upon them for matchup favorings as a coaching staff. Like there's many situations that are key in that sense too. So I think that's going to be really important. It's going to be interesting to see how the mold of this team, how everything transpires and how quickly everything transpires. But very exciting just from the start. And honestly, I like how their top nine looks. If you can get Ryan Donato, Andre Burakovsky, Teuvo Teravainen, and Tyler Perduzzi to be productive offensively, and Frank Nazar for that matter too, that could be a very underrated top six in the league. You hope those guys can produce. You just don't know what they're going to be. They're sort of wild cards right now, but they have the potential to really slot out and be able to make impact offensively there as well.